1997 year in review continues with WWF's Bad Blood in Your House with me, Daniel Rock 08. On this day, the morning of the show, October 5th, 1997, Brian Pillman passed away in his hotel room in Bloomington, Minnesota. Jim Cornette would call to see what the hell's going on, and they would tell him Brian Pillman has passed away. And Brian Pillman's death is notable because he was the very, well, not the very first, but he was the very first, I'd say the most notable, one of the most notable superstars to die on the active roster. He was one of the very first popular wrestlers to die on the active roster. I mean, there's other guys who died on the active roster. Way back in 1985, Quick Draw Rick McGraw died. He was on the active roster. You had Joey Morella, the WWF referee. He died, but nothing that was like nothing. No disrespect, but this this death was major. Was huge. Um, this would send a huge domino effect. Once when Brian Pillman died, then came Louis Spicolli, who would die 4 months later. Then would come Rick Rude, then Owen, then Yoko, then so many guys, then the Bulldog, and then Boss Man, Mr. Perfect, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Umaga, Test, Mike Awesome. So many guys afterwards. So many guys. Macho Man, the Warrior, Viscera, Sean O'Hare. So many guys pass away. You know, and a lot of these guys, they died on the active roster while they were, or they were just removed from the active roster, like Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect, he was fired, let go, and then a couple months later he passed away. Big Boss Man, same deal. Umaga, same deal. Viscera was always part of the WWE. A couple of months later he would die. So it's crazy. Now, here's a crazy thing. I looked into this. This is crazy. Brian Pillman died in Bloomington, Minnesota, which is a city in the metropolitan area of Minneapolis, which 8 years later, that's the same place Eddie Guerrero died. Very weird. Brian Pillman was supposed to be on this show, which was in St. Louis. You want to know where St. Louis was? Owen Hart's death. The Raw after Owen Hart's death. They celebrated Owen Hart's career, his life, his legacy, his tributes. Where was that Raw held? In St. Louis, Missouri. Um, Owen Hart died in Kansas City on the Over the Edge 1999 pay-per-view. Well, that was in Kansas City. Brian Pillman, the next night on Raw, they celebrated his life and his legacy and his career on Raw in Kansas City, Missouri, which is the same place a year and a half later Owen Hart will die and fall to his death. Very weird, fucking weird shit right there. I just put like Brian Pillman is celebrated the night after his legacy is celebrated the night after his death in the exact same place a year and a half later. Owen Hart died, and Owen Hart, his legacy is celebrated the next night on Raw in St. Louis, which is the night, which was the show Brian Pillman was supposed to be at. Now that's the sad stuff. Now there's also a lot of good stuff here. This is the debut of the Hell in a Cell match, and it's the debut of Kane, one of the greatest superstars of all time. So let's start off. No more sad stuff. We got through the sad stuff. Let's talk about this show. This show is balls. It's bad. It's goodness gracious, great balls of fire. This show sucks. This show is a one-match show. It really is. And people say, well, what else happened on Bad Blood besides, Brian Pillman's death and the Hell in a Cell match? Well, nothing else really happened. You have the Nation of Domination defeating the Road Warriors. 4 out of 10. Next. Max Mini and Nova defeats Tarantula and Mosaic. This is their midget division match. This is what replaced Brian Pillman and Dude Love. You can tell that they didn't really know how to handle a situation like this, really. Um, they didn't know if they should talk about it, like down to heart about Brian Pillman, or they should continue on with storylines and talk about, what the death of Brian Pillman means to Owen Hart, and how is Bret Hart feeling about this, so on and so forth. They didn't know really what to do here. They're trying to figure out how to how to how to how to deal with this situation. If they want to be down to earth and kind-hearted and go on with storylines, go on with the show, or they want to talk about it and so on and so forth. Anyways, so 3 out of 10, nothing much to talk about this midget division match, which was actually, I think, better than the light heavyweight division. I know. Again, WCW cruiserweights, WWF light heavyweights, clear the fuck down here. Okay. Next up, Godwin's defeat the Headbangers for the tag team titles. Bad. Uncle Cletus comes in, that's their manager, whatever the fuck. Cletus, the slack jog yokel, 4.5 out of 10. Next, Owen Hart defeats Farouk for the Intercontinental Championship, for the vacated Intercontinental title, because Steve Austin had to vacate his said Intercontinental title, and this is coming weeks after weeks after weeks. He stunned JR at Ground Zero. He stunned Jerry Lawler. He stuns Sergeant Slaughter. And finally, he stuns the boss. He stuns Vince McMahon. Steve Austin wants revenge against Owen Hart. And you can tell Owen Hart is kind of just going through the motions with this match. Him and Brian Pillman were very tight. And, you can tell he just kind of is just there. He's just going with the flow. Steve Austin's out there. He is interrupting on the English commentators. He gets into Tito Santana's face and starts spewing all this Spanish stuff. Then he gets into Jacques Rougeau and the French commentators. I find it funny. He goes right up to Tito Santana and the Mountie and Jerry Lawler at the French, the English, and the Spanish. And he goes through all the commentators. Then he screws over Farouk because he wants revenge on Owen Hart. And he wants his title back, but he wants to beat Owen Hart for it, the man who broke his neck. Now that makes a lot of sense. Instead of Chris Jericho screwing Kevin Owens out of his Universal title, shouldn't he help Kevin Owens beat Goldberg so that way Jericho can take the Universal title himself from Kevin Owens and make his revenge that much better? You think that would be the case, but no, it doesn't. But this is the case where that makes a hell of a lot of sense. This match is shit, though. A 2 out of 10. This is much more about Stone Cold Steve Austin than anything. Disciples of Apocalypse versus Los Boricuas. This is almost as forgettable as their match from SummerSlam. This whole gang warfare where you had the Hart Foundation, the Legion of, and the Nation of Domination also a part of this shit. Next, 2 out of 10. Then we have a flag match between Bret Hart and the British Bulldog defeating Vader and the Patriot. Oh my God. This match was boring. It was 25 minutes of snooze fest. I'm sure it was okay if you could pay attention. This was also the first time in a long time the WWF title was not on the line on a pay-per-view, which is kind of weird. But for the first time in a long time, the WWF title was not on the line. So instead we have this tag match where there's nothing on the line here. The object of the goal in this match is to capture opponent's flag, but just because you have captured the opponent's flag, that doesn't necessarily mean you win the match. As they stated at the start of the match, pinfall submissions and capturing the flag are all legal. So they capture their flag, but the match still continues. This is 25 minutes of boring. I fell asleep twice, had to rewatch it 3 times over. It took me 2 days to watch this. This match is boring. 4.5 as being incredibly generous. The Patriots sucks. Vader's awesome. Bulldog's awesome. Bret Hart's awesome. Patriot's awful and should not be a part of this match. Put Steve Austin in this match. Put someone else in this match, not the Patriot. He sucked. 4.5. All right, main event time. Finally, we get what this show is all about and what this is. Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. Hell in a Cell, the debut of the Hell in a Cell match. And in a lot of cases, for a lot of match stipulations, the first time is always the best time. The first one is always the best one. It's the same case for the Elimination Chamber. The first Elimination Chamber is the best Elimination Chamber. It's the same goes here. The first Hell in a Cell match is the best Hell in a Cell match. This match is incredible. It's Undertaker beating the shit out of Shawn Michaels. It's Shawn Michaels being the absolute biggest piece of shit he is. He takes out a cameraman, which isn't anything new. You want to know who was happy when Shawn Michaels retired? The cameraman. Anyways, so Shawn Michaels hits a sweet chin music on Undertaker. He no-sells. They beat up the cameraman. So this is a quick time while they're attending the cameraman trying to get him out of the cell. Guess what? This is a perfect time for Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker to amscrate and exit the Hell in a Cell. And then Shawn Michaels gets busted open as he gets long darted into the cell. They climb said cell. Military presses on the cell. And then, you have Shawn Michaels. He's just dangling and hanging off of the Hell in a Cell with one hand. And then Undertaker stomps his hand. Shawn Michaels falls through the table. They get back into the ring. Top rope choke slam. Fucking awesome. Then all comes to Tombstone. And then this is where this match becomes iconic to legendary. Now all comes to Tombstone. Wait, what's going on here? Lights go out. You hear this sound. Light turns red. And then that's Paul Bearer. And that's gotta be Kane. That's got to be Kane. Kane comes this masked creature, bigger than the Undertaker, in red and black flames, and he rips open the door. He sets the turnbuckles on fire. He freaking tombstones the hell out of the Undertaker. Shawn Michaels, with his bloody carcass, climbs over to cover the Undertaker, and he gets the 1, 2, 3. This is one hell of a match. 5 stars. A 10 out of 10. Saves this show from being one of the worst shows, one of the most boring shows I've ever watched. Holy shit. This match was awesome. You get the debut of Kane, the Hell in a Cell, the elements. And this is what makes this match so fucking incredible. Again, sometimes the first one is the best one. In the case of the Elimination Chamber, and in my opinion, the first ladder match, the popularized ladder match, the WrestleMania 10 ladder match, and for the Hell in a Cell, the first one is the best one. 10 out of 10, one of the greatest matches you will ever see. Dave Meltzer gave it 10 on 10, but he wouldn't give another WWE match a 5-star match until CM Punk versus John Cena, because he's a mark. He's a super fucking old mark. Anyways, this match is awesome. Debut of Kane's awesome. Overall, this show is both good, bad, and sad all at the same time. You got the death of Brian Pillman. It's boring as hell, but you have one hell of a Hell in a Cell match. Other than that, the only good thing I would say would be Stone Cold Steve Austin on this show. Overall, I would say this is on par with WrestleMania 13. Just like with WrestleMania 13, where that is known for one match and one match only, and that is Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. That goes true the same way here. So on par with WrestleMania 13. This show is not very good, but it has one match, and one match you should watch, and that's the damn Hell in a Cell match. A 4.3 out of 10. Speaking of Brian Pillman's death, I am announcing this. I am finally updating my tribute to wrestlers who have passed away. And it will be every wrestler who's passed away from Brian Pillman to this year. So looking for that. Coming next, a 1997 year in review, WCW's Halloween Havoc. Goodbye.